Welcome to the Art of Authority podcast, bringing you interviews and episodes to help you radically optimize your authority and influence to become the go-to expert in your field. Here's your host, authority positioning coach, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of The Art of Authority. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. And today I'm going to talk about something really interesting because it's kind of funny. I was Googling one of my recent guests on my podcast, the Influential Entrepreneurs, because I always love after you interview some people and the platform gets so great indexing from Google that many times one or two of the locations their interview was syndicated to gets indexed on Google. So it's really cool to be able to get back to them and say, hey, when people Google you, look at what they're going to see. Of course, they see your website, LinkedIn, Twitter, but look at this. You were interviewed on my show and it's right there on page one of Google. Well, this morning I Googled one of my past interview guests and it says, rest in peace, you will be missed. And I was like, oh my word. Well, it was the wrong guy. It was just a kind of a common name, but it was not the guy that I interviewed. But that made me think, what do people see when they Google you? And if you have a name that is somewhat common, doesn't even have to be Smith or Jones. It could just be a name that's somewhat common. What are things happening in that person's life that people could think or assume in your life? So that is super important when we're thinking about building your authority positioning portfolio, which is the collection of authority positioning assets, the things that you're doing online that can get indexed and positioned on Google, like, podcast interviews, mentions in the media, writing a book, blog posts, all of these things that would have your name and brand connected to it. Because think of it like this. You want to be doing things in content marketing, in your content marketing strategy that will leave a breadcrumb trail. Don't just write a blog post and title it, blog post number 112 on, the basics of XYZ, right? Whatever your topic is. You want to make sure that you've got some keywords that people would be potentially Googling to then find you. So maybe it's a pain point your target audience may have, and then they might find that blog post or that podcast interview. Or maybe it's your name and your brand, Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach, discusses whatever. And then if people are Googling me, then they can find that. And speaking of, it's kind of interesting. Mike Saunders is not that common of a name, but there is a Wikipedia page for a Mike Saunders, and it says, also known as Metal Mike, a rock critic and the singer of the California punk band Angry Samoans. Well, that's not me. As much as I like me some metal music here and there, I'm not the lead singer or former lead singer of a punk band. But it really is kind of interesting because even myself, as much as I get all of my authority positioning assets out there, if we put in, Mike Saunders, authority positioning coach, you're going to see just all kinds of my authority positioning assets, from interviews to, book and all those kind of things. But what if someone just put in my name and they saw that and they're like, I don't know whether that, not that that's a problem, but the person that I Googled that shows that he's dead, it might be a problem. So what should we take away from this? You need to keep from being obscure to your target audience, meaning invisible. If they don't know about you and all the ways that you can help them in their life, personally and professionally, with your services or products, that's a problem. That's being obscure. But what about misinformation? What about, just someone that has stuff out there about them that has a name similar or exactly like yours? That's a big, important thing to keep in mind when you're building your authority positioning assets consistently, because you have to have it as part of a comprehensive content marketing plan. And there are ways that you can do this, easily. And I talk about this in my book, Authority Selling, which you can get a free copy, just pay shipping. Just go over to www.authorysellingbook.com and pick up a copy, because in the book talks about all of the things that I teach on, which is building your authority positioning portfolio. And it gives you some do-it-yourself ways and tips to get this done. So here's an example. You should get mentioned in the media from journalists or news media stories. Well, how are you going to get that done? Well, one of the tips is to sign up for free at HARO, H-A-R-O, which stands for Help a Reporter Out. And you can sign up for that and click different categories, and you will get notified on a daily basis, and sometimes 2 and 3 times a day, of journalists looking for stories that you may or may not be able to comment on, so you can sift through those and you can respond. And that's wonderful. I've gotten picked up in the media using that myself. Of course, the downside is it is a barrage of emails and content and news stories. You have to sift through that. And then when you do find one you might be able to comment on, there's a deadline, and then you have to, submit to them, and they might have follow up, and it is a lot to do. But that is a way that you can get yourself seen out there. You just need to do it consistently. So today's episode kind of started off with a little funny, interesting thing that, are you dead? Or, are you, the lead singer of a Samoan punk band? That kind of a concept. But think about what people may see when they Google you that's not related to you or your brand, and how you can make sure you have a good, consistent amount of authority positioning assets being built out there and indexed on Google, and that you are controlling. You cannot just be interviewed on a podcast or mentioned in the media once and think, yep, that's it. Yay. You've got to use that. Number one, do it consistently, of course. But number one, takeaway is to make sure you get that sent out through your networks. So you're going to put a social media post out. You're going to email it to your list. You're going to maybe even, use it in your business development emails. Hey, look forward to connecting with you next week when we have our initial meeting to learn more about your business. By the way, in the meantime, make sure you check out this I was recently mentioned in or recently featured on. Those are things that you got to make sure you get integrated into your business each and every day, so that your contacts, your strategic alliances, your clients, don't leave them out of the mix. Your clients need to realize that you're out there getting her done, and you're not just, happy that they have you or you have them as a client. You want your clients to know all the things you're doing, because they're out there talking to their friends, their colleagues, their workers in their business, but also they need to realize that, you just put out a piece on, whatever, and they might come across someone at their next chamber meeting that they're at, and they might go, oh, you know what? A friend of mine just talked about that. Let me get you his information. So I just want to encourage you with that. And remember that until next time, when we connect on the Art of Authority podcast, building your authority is your number one priority. Make it a great day.
You've been listening to the Art of Authority podcast. Are you interested in building your authority positioning as the number one strategy to grow your business, brand, and influence? Book your authority audit today. This 7-point audit of your current authority position will uncover opportunities and show you how to be seen as a leading expert and authority your industry looks to for advice. Visit www.authoritypositioningcoach.com.